You are tuned in to the Black Talk Radio Network. For podcasts and live program scheduling, visit us on the web at blacktalkradionetwork.com. The views and opinions expressed by callers, guests, and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of the Black Talk Radio Network and Black Talk Media Project. Black Talk Radio is new black media for the new millennium.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Melanated Roots radio show on Black Talk Radio Network. Today is Monday, August 27th, 2017, and we have a live show for you this evening. Brother Tommy and Brother Rio is your host, and our topic for today is the oppressor has no intentions of loosening the noose around the neck of the oppressed. And that will be our topic. And if you would like to ask a question or share some information on this topic, please call 866-510-9025. Brother Rio, how you feeling today, brother?
Testing. Trying out a new headset. Can you hear me, brother?
Yes, sir. I hear you very well. How's it feeling for you?
All right. I'm doing pretty good today, man. I'm doing pretty good. Feeling, highly favored. And listening to Brother Dave about what they're going through down in Houston or down in Texas, and I think he hit on some really good points about us being able to come to our own rescue, getting together, being able to rally our own resources such as boats, and going out and patrolling and helping out ourselves instead of just waiting on the government or whoever else out there just wants to. Excuse me, brother.
Hello, Brother Ree, are you there?
Yeah. Yes, sir. My fault. I got distracted for a second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But relying on ourselves instead of waiting for others to come to our aid, and also beginning the talks of what it's going to take to be prepared in our situation. So, some things we're going to have to step up and we're going to have to be able to do. But, you got any thoughts or any statements about what's going on in Texas, about the hurricanes and the flooding?
Yeah, I definitely been paying attention to it, and it's tough to see, especially when you're seeing melanated people having to go through these type of situations. Going back to what you just said, seeing how a lot of us are not prepared and definitely are not ready to take the mantle in terms of moving forth our own agenda, in terms of making sure we have what we need to be able to deal with all these situations as they occur. So I'm definitely feeling him. And not only that, I was listening to Brother Dave on Tandor earlier as the show was going on, and listening to some of his thoughts on why he think it's an orchestrated event. And I was really feeling his commentary on that. And it's definitely a situation of waking up for our people, in my opinion. Definitely on the front of preparation. And I think, a lot of black folks just aren't prepared for the different things that can occur. And that's something that we just need to turn up the knob on, period. So I'm feeling you 100%. My spirit and my energy is definitely thinking about our brothers and sisters who are in that condition. But it's definitely something we need to start preparing for, because I can only just see this being the beginning of many different things occurring, because, that's just definitely the season that we are in.
My brother, this is the question that came to my mind as I was also listening to Brother Dave. We understand that, hurricane has come, the flood waters are there, people are suffering, but I can't help but to wonder if we're going to see a similar counteraction from particular militias or white militant groups in the area, kind of surrounding the affected areas in the melanated populations and, kind of causing havoc. What are your thoughts on that, brother? I mean, I'm hoping that's not the case, but, I'm just really hoping that it's not a pattern that's being established.
No, I feel you. I believe that's definitely a issue of concern. Because if you go back and you look at what happened with Hurricane Katrina, when you had melanated people who were able to get away from certain areas to try to get out of the water, the moment them white folks felt as if black people were coming in their neighborhoods and their community, you see what happened, especially up there on the Danziger Bridge, where you had some white armed militias that shot and killed some brothers up there. So that's a serious issue, and especially when you're looking at the state of Texas. Not to say that these white folks ain't horrible in other places, but you definitely know that you're going to have some militias, and you're going to have white folks looking to do the same thing, because there's a very good chance. And I haven't did Brother Rio a study of the different what area is actually flooding. You know what I'm saying? If they're pushing the water to a certain area of town. Brother Dave kind of suggested that, and I was feeling him, and so I kind of need to do a little research myself to see what areas are flooded and where the water's coming to, and are they kind of pushing it in that direction because they want to handle or deal with the melanated population, you know what I'm saying, and they're using this storm to be able to do that. But I'm letting you know I'm looking out for it, and I'm watching to see how it turns out, because that's a definite concern that they're not going to they're not going to tell us all their particular reasons behind everything, but I can definitely see that we need to pay attention closely, because I guarantee you there's a few tricks up their sleeves in this event.
I would agree. Brother Scotty said that I'm coming in a little low, so you might need to adjust the volume.
No, I got it. I took care of it. I seen it when it came up.
But, it still might be a little early, but it doesn't appear that this is going to be declared a national disaster. So I don't think they're going to pull in the National Guard like they had to do in New Orleans. And I'm not sure, that led to a lot of the, militia also being out there running around. But I don't know. It's just curious to see, as this continues, how the response is going to be.
Yeah, I know. And like us, and the length of the storm is really what is kind of troubling me. We already know that these Europeans got weapons and different things that they utilize to control the weather and to move storm fronts and to push them here and push them there. And I'm assuming now that they have the ability to stall them out over a particular area that they please over an extended period of time as well, which is something that I've never seen before. You had like you have your hurricane come in,
that was great.
Yeah, dumps what it dumps, and then it keeps it moving. But this storm, it looks like it's definitely being controlled. And the thing about it is, you just can't overlook their ability to do these type of things, because this is something that they've done repeatedly, in different ways, affecting different populations over such a long period of time. So every time something occurs, we need to take the time, stop, and really look at it, because you just can't put it past them. Now, I'm not saying I want to place something on these Europeans that shouldn't be placed on them. That is nature within itself. But when these incidences occur, you got to watch them, and you got to ask some questions, without a doubt. Brother Rio, hold on, sir.
Brother in queue 702. Go ahead with your statement or comment.
Hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to quickly comment, because I know that you all were talking about Hurricane Harvey. And I just looked up online, and it's from the Daily Advertiser. The website is theadvertiser.com, and it does say a state of emergency declared for Lafayette Parish. But I just wanted to just basically add that. It said the Lafayette Mayor / President Joel has declared a state of emergency for Lafayette Parish, and it just kind of talks about the hurricane. And then also it's the Washington Post. They have this article stating, it said the title is Trump declares emergency for Louisiana as the state braces for possible Harvey-related flooding. So I just wanted to only add that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very, very much, sister.
That was very informative and very much appreciated. So, yeah, it looks like, we are going to the development as to it'd be interesting to see how Trump is going to respond to the situation and see what aid he's going to put down and just the overall handling of the situation. What are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, I think everybody is pretty much kind of sitting back and has thoughts of here we go again. But it's almost in some ways it's like, okay, we've experienced this, and we've seen the response that this government had when we were in the same situation before, or our people were in harm's way. And one thing that I'm going to be paying attention to is, one, have black people putting themselves in a better position to where they can respond and be able to take care of themselves and help others in the same situation, or are black folks kind of overlooked what they seen in Hurricane Katrina and got themselves in a position where they're just helpless and haven't properly prepared, or at least put some things in place just in case something like this occurred?
That's an interesting point of view, brother, because, as the title of the show states, I don't think they're going to let their foot up off the necks or, let the oppressed out of the noose anytime soon. So, a lot of people are still caught in the regular routine of, just trying to, keep food on the table or keep up with the Joneses.
Right.
So, I don't know how many people have really addressed the issue of, prepping or being prepared. But, Brother Dave drops a lot of jewels, as well as Roz and other contributors to Brother Dave's show about, getting prepared. And, I know I still got a little work to do. But, I do have some things in place. But, I no way feel comfortable. So, I think I'm going to have to heed this as a wake-up call as well, because, Atlanta is a heavily melanated area. So, when they want to make an example, sooner or later, I think it's going to be coming here.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. They definitely want to, and the thing about it is, Brother Real, we have in some instances, their reasoning for doing things. Sometimes you have to be so well researched and you have to be so clued in for you to get for you to be able to see it right away when an event occurs, and for you to be on top of it right away. Sometimes that's hard to do because they're moving in a silent fashion on so many fronts. You feel me? And sometimes it's hard to spot it. And it may take a day or two or the incident to move a little forward for us to be able to start seeing the signs. But I just really believe that a lot of brothers and sisters are already at that point to where they are already kind of saying, okay, let me watch this dude. So I just think there's going to be more and more examples coming along where that's going to be the case. We're going to have to be prepared. We're going to have to be watching his every move, and we have to have a counter plan. And the only way that we can do that is to understand, based off the topic that we're going to kick in today, is the silent weapons, that in the hidden agendas that they have moving forward without, unbeknownst to the major population. And basically we are now just basically experiencing those things as they come one after another.
I agree with you, brother. And I think that in order to get a better understanding of the things that are coming into play, that we're going to be talking on in the later part of the show, we need to kind of go over the history or the psychology of, the people who are doing the oppressing. And it's my opinion that they haven't changed, not one bit. The psychosis that they've had since the beginning. Mm-hmm. And since they made themselves known and aware, by when they first came on the planet, it's just been one headache after another. It's been nothing but an environment of war. And, what true gains can a civilization, if you want to call it a civilized civilization, what true gains can a civilization really strive for and achieve in times of war? When you always got to look over your shoulder, when you're always plotting, planning, so, either you're being deceptive or you're deceiving people, and the people being deceived, they obviously don't have time to build. So, I just question how far a civilization can really rise in, times of strife and war, and that is the environment that has just been set up. What do you think about that?
I feel with you. I don't feel it can rise at all. But, Brother Rio, we got a caller on the board, area code 616. Go ahead and state your name and go ahead with your comments, sir.
Hey there. This is Sister Davis.
Oh, Sister Davis.
And
I'm sorry.
we're traveling in the DC area right now. But I just wanted to add to that, talking as far as prepping, most of the people, they prep more for the Super Bowl than they prep for a disaster.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you think about everything you need for the Super Bowl, you're looking at what to drink, what to eat, what to wear, where to go. You need to use those little factors into what you need to do in case of a disaster. And we've had so many disasters between floods, rain, snow, Fukushima, meltdowns of nuclear plants. We've had enough examples here that we shouldn't have to, hit somebody over the head and say, hey, we need to prepare. It doesn't have to be the grid going down and the asteroid hitting the Earth. It could just be snow. We can get somebody can get 6 feet of snow and they can't get to the store. Mm-hmm. And we need to, as melanated people, really need to get ourselves together, because I know when I was 12 years old, we were in a major hurricane at a place that never gets a hurricane. And, it's like first time in creation that it happened to have a hurricane in this area. And we ended up with almost 10 feet of rain and our first floor. We had just moved in this house a month prior, just got all the boxes done. So that changed our life forever. And as a 12-year-old, I learned from that. My husband was also, young teen, a little older than me, a teen at that time, and we both learned. It doesn't take 4 or 5 disasters if you're in them or around them, or you have loved ones that are in them or around them, to know that we need to get ourselves together. Start, instead of buying bigger TVs and all of that, we need to buy water filtration, and instead of buying bigger cars and all of that, we need to get something that you can transport your family in case there is a disaster. They ain't got to be brand new, but it has to be practical. And that's the kind of stuff that we really need to do. We know the medical industry is just sleeping with the government as far as keeping us sick. So I'm not saying that everybody got to get on a holistic bandwagon and be vegans, but I'm saying you need to, if you have high blood pressure, if there's an alternative in case you can't get the medicine, everybody needs to have a plan B in all these situations. And it doesn't have to be done overnight, and it doesn't have to take millions of dollars. But during the summertime, it's a great time to go to yard sales, flea markets, get, a first aid kit, get a manual on how you can create fires without matches, and, just be practical. And the same thing with the children. Take them out on a camping, like we did with our grandchildren. We took them a couple of years ago on a camping trip, and they just thought it was playtime. But we were doing it as a learning environment. And when you go camping, you see exactly what you don't have. It could be something as easy as toilet paper. Well, you better use a leaf then. You know what I mean? But if you're in an environment that you don't have all this stuff, you should start to have a different mindset. Another thing we do is we have a zone-free Wi-Fi, no cell phone weekend every so often. You can even play camp in the house and turn off the light at your socket, down in the basement or at your place where you have your main switch. Cut that off and see what you have to do to survive within your house without electricity.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You might want to take some stuff out your freezer so that you get ruined, but give everybody, especially children, an idea of what it's like if these things aren't there. And if we start playing those type of role plays, playing around every so often, maybe once a month, once a week, well, not necessarily once a week, but once a month for every season, I think as melanated people, we will start to become aware of what it's like to not have everything we need. And, watching that TV, any of us can go to the YouTube University, and there's all kinds of things on prepping, water filtration, how to start a car without a key. I think there's all kinds of stuff. And then once again, like the Tando show, we do a lot of prepping on that show. But yeah, brother, you're coming with it really real. We need to, if we can prep for the Super Bowl and have all the bells and whistles, we should at least have some idea if the lights go out. So that's what I want.
I agree. Hold on, Sister Davis. I agree with you. That's some powerful information, Sister Davis. Give us your thoughts on this storm in terms of the way it's moving, staying for 3 days and dropping. Do you have any thoughts, any ideas come across your mind when you're hearing about the storm?
Oh, yes, brother. My husband and I, we already know. When it first started brewing, about a week ago. They started talking about it, and we were talking about it a little bit on the Sando show. So when it did come, we were kind of like on a little vacation retreat. But when it did come, it really was no surprise. If you see them chemtrails doing a tic-tac-toe in the sky, that has a lot to do with it. The HAARP program, HAARP program, is a weather creation that has been out of control that the government now owns that creates weather patterns. All of this is truly designed. And I know Louis Farrakhan, we're not Muslim, but we have some Muslims in our family. So from time to time, let's look at a final call, their publication called The Final Call, and we'll read up on it a little bit. And he has prophesied it many, many times that this is the roosters. What is it? What's the thing about the roosters?
Roosters coming home.
The chickens coming home to roost.
Yeah, there you go.
That, this is all just because of their wickedness. And one aspect, but also on the other aspect, they're doing this for depopulation. It's just they want a certain amount of people gone so that then they can control the other millions of people.
Do you feel like they're steering water towards a certain direction? Is there a neighborhood or community that they want to move a certain melanated population out of? How are you feeling about any of that?
Yes, absolutely. Just like Katrina, we should have learned from that years ago. Yes, if they took the richest part of the area, which black people were living, they created this storm that sat there and killed, unfortunately some people did not survive. Now look at it. Let's just go back and look at it. What are they doing now? They built condos. They got regentrification, got those people out of that area. Then they rebuilt the area, and now the people who live there can't afford to live with the people who were from there can't afford to live there any longer. And that's what they're doing. They're doing it in Detroit with the water. Yeah. That little water fiasco with the water that looked like dirt coming out the spigot, that was all designed. Oh, somebody said they switched it and the water came from this source and not that. No. That Flint, Michigan. Yeah, Flint. That's regentrification. They have their ways and means, and we need to wake up and smell the roses and see what's going on. Now, everybody is starting to wake up. I know one thing that we don't do any longer, all that NFL, I know with the guy who did the knee and all that, but, for the last couple of years, instead of us making that direction on the weekends and buying our ears and shirts and stuff, we start doing prepping. For that money that we bought T-shirts with, we put it into our prepping.
Right.
Those hours that we used to spend, doing Sunday afternoon all day looking at games and this and that, We now do what is it called? YouTube University, or we pick up a book that has something to do with prepping or just the mindset. Because just because you have bottles and cans and food and containers, there's a mindset that goes with that. And we try to tap on it a lot on Tando's show, where you have to learn what to give away, what not to give away, who to trust, not to trust. There could be some family that you can't let in because they'll go crazy and kill you for your stuff. And it could be straight up blood family. So there's a mindset that goes along with this. And as a people, we really need to grab hold. And a good source that we listened to years ago, brothers, that really opened up my mind, opened up my eyes, and I listen to it every so often. It's called the King Alfred's Plan. And it's by Ray Higgins, and it's on the YouTube. And that talks strictly about depopulation. And this was done by Dr. Ray Higgins, who's a pastor back in the early 80s. And he's not prophesying, but he's telling you what's coming down the pike. He talks about the FEMA camps, the regentrification of the communities, the executive orders of, martial law that's coming, that's right around the corner. My husband and I, we're working. As a matter of fact, when I said we were at a retreat, we were at our farm that we have a family farm. It's a small area that we are outside the city that we're trying to cultivate. Because one of the things we have to do as melanated people, if there is martial law, well, I ain't going to say if, because it's just when, you have to be out the cities. You have to be out the cities and know where to go prior to the situation happening. And because the cities are going to be on a lockdown. You can see every major city is off an interstate. Every inner city has a Walmart on the interstate, and that's where they're going to start rounding up people. There's also railways right in that area where they can ship people off into other locations. And one more thing I want to add, look at the movies that are out. The movies are telling the story if I'm not telling it. If Ray Higgins isn't telling it. You have movies about asteroids perhaps hitting the Earth, which is probably a possibility. You have all kinds of stuff about martial law. We just saw last night again, The Kingsman. That's talking about how they're using frequencies to control people. That's very true. A lot of the movies that are out here, now they got some superhero movies that sound like they're going to save everybody, but I'm not too maybe a superhero will save us, but I doubt it. But I'm just saying, if you look at some of the movies, it's telling you. It's absolutely telling you. And as far as evacuation, people need to know, read the tea leaves. And if it's time to evacuate, if you think it's always good to leave, if you leave too early and come back and it's fine, that's fine. If you leave too late, you could die. And like we've talked about on the Tango Show, there's no home, there's no TV, refrigerator, couch that's worth your life.
I wonder, Sister Davis, if some people are afraid to leave because they may feel like they may not ever make it back. If you look at the Hurricane Katrina situation, Brother Rio or Sister Davis, you think that some people may look at it from that standpoint, that if I may not have nothing to come back to if I leave.
That's possible. That's possible, but us as melanated people, brother, we can start anew somewhere else. We don't have, sometimes that's a blessing in disguise, not going back. You know what I mean? I'm not always saying that it's a blessing, but, we were created in our DNA to move forward. We've always moved forward, no matter what was thrown at us, slavery, racism, we move forward. And if it means not going back and start somewhere else, if you have your family and your health, that's it. You don't need nothing else. A lot of people put a lot of big mindset on the belonging and the materialism, and it's not about that. It's about your spiritualism, which your religion, I would say spiritualism, and your physical, mental abilities, and your children and your family. That's it. And if it means not going back, hey, that means that start off somewhere new. Now, in our situation, when we had our flooding back in the 70s, we went, it was not as bad that we didn't have to move away. But I tell you what, brother, that reconstruction is a monster. It takes at least 10 years to reconstruct homes, all the contractors go out of business because there's not enough lumber and rebuilding materials. It's about 10 years when you go back to get everything halfway there. We've lived it. We lived it. Okay. We hit with the 10 feet on the first floor. We lived it. And my dad still lives in that house today, and there's still remnants of the flooding that we had. There's still, you go in the basement, there's still remnants. Water line on the garage. There's for us that live there, there's remnants. But it's very difficult to restructure. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult. In our situation, it worked for us. But if the house would have, fallen apart or whatever, my parents would have picked up us as children and moved us to another location and started something new. And that's, when these people board up their houses and think, I'm going to sit in it and ride it out, they are crazy. They are. I saw some stuff on TV. Little boy was 6 years old with his father talking about, we're going to ride it out. You're going to ride it out with your 6-year-old? A big wind or a rush of water can snatch a 6-year-old right out of your hand. His hand from your hand, or if you hold him, rush him right out of your hand. No, I wouldn't take that chance. It's not worth it. Right. Some house or some neighborhood, it's not worth it. We've lived it. Nothing is worth your family or your health. Nothing on this earth. Believe me. You can restructure, and sometimes when you rebuild, you rebuild something nicer than you had.
Mm-hmm.
So that that's how. But all of this is all orchestrated with the weather. They orchestrated the snowstorms. They've orchestrated. If it's snowing in Egypt, somebody is orchestrating it, and it has snowed in Egypt. I think last year it snowed. Right. That's all. That's all done.
Yes.
They know what they're doing.
Modified weather.
They know what they're doing, and then they call it a phenomenon. It's not. They control all of that. They're controlling our food supply. They have seeds that don't regenerate. It's crazy. You can see with genders. They're changing genders. Mm-hmm. They're having animals born with different genders, and it's all orchestrated. Because if they can keep us from populating the earth, that's what they want to do. Yeah. And if you are of opposite gender that you've changed, you will not be able. And I'm not prejudiced against anybody that changes their, gay people or anything like that. I'm just using it as fact. But they cannot repopulate. Mm-hmm. If you have 2 men or 2 women, unless they have the aid of another sex, they cannot repopulate. So if they can get everybody to be the same sex, guess what? There will be no children born. Let's just think about that. That's a depopulation in itself.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
No, I was feeling you. I was just smiling and cheesing along with you. I'm listening to what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, my husband and I, we're truck drivers, so we do listen to a lot of alternative news sources, mm-hmm. and we do try to keep up, and we do a lot of study, and we do a lot of talk between us, and it's all written on the tea leaves. I know one thing my husband is a real big stiller on is Fukushima, mm-hmm. and how that has ruined. People think that water is still not spewing out 100,000 gallons a day. Mm-hmm. Every day, all day, and it's been since that thing started, and it has completely deadened the Pacific Ocean with radiation that is now mutating fish. I've seen some fish on YouTube that had 2 mouths and 6 eyes and mold and grotesque tails and just all kinds of stuff. And I know for us, we don't eat out the Pacific at all. I don't even want to. My husband's vegetarian, and I pretty much vegetarian. I don't very seldom eat meat. But I tell you what, I'm even looking at the different seaweed and different types of vegetation that vegetarians usually eat that come out of the Pacific because it's full of radiation. That radiation ain't going nowhere. That radiation is going all the way around the planet. And it's just going to, that's another depopulation.
Yes, it is.
And the people of Japan are even forbidden to talk about it. If people in Japan talk about how bad it is, they instantly put them in jail. And everybody who was at the Fukushima accident, all the scientists, all the workers, everybody is dead. They've been dead and buried. They're gone. everybody that lived around there, all of the everybody who had anything to do with Fukushima at that time of the earthquake are all now dead, and just from the radiation. And every day going forward, it has put about 100,000 gallons of totally 100% radiated water into the Pacific. And they don't even talk about it on CNN or any of those shows anymore. They don't even talk about it. And like I said, that's depopulation right there. Now on the Pacific coast, and I know they were saying that some of the cow milk is highly radiated because of the grass that's growing. And personally, my husband and I, we try not to even eat California fruits and vegetables. If I see it on especially like strawberries or blueberries or something, it says Mexico or Southern California, I don't even eat it. I put it right back on the shelf. I don't eat it because I know it's got to have radiation in it. It's got to a high level.
So, Davis, you are absolutely correct, and you have said a lot in a little bit. I definitely feel you, but I wanted to comment on the aspect of the weather and being prepared again, because being in Atlanta with when it snows or you get a threat of snow, schools shut down. People, they run on the grocery stores and they clean it out, and you can never tell when the snow is actually going to hit. And if it doesn't hit, then people feel wasted time, and they wasted their money on purchasing these things. But like a few years ago when it did hit, and people were stuck in their houses over the weekend for 2 or 3 days, it sounded like people were going to lose their mind. They just weren't very well prepared. So we definitely have to remain diligent and not be numb to the routine that they try to get us used to, and just thinking that the next one is just going to be a regular occurrence, because you never know when the one is going to hit that's going to have you separated and relying on your own intuition and skill. So you're absolutely right. But the mentality of the people who are propagating these situations is, pretty much the topic of today's show. And Brother Tommy,
yes, sir.
You ready to go ahead and kind of lay it on down and get into it?
Yeah. I just want to make a few statements in response to Sister Davis. She had brought up so many good positive things, especially when and that's relevant to the conversation we're having today about the storm in Houston. When we're talking about HARP, she mentioned HARP. I know if she had more time, she'd have went into it. But that program that they have to be able to direct storms, move storm fronts in different directions, I think we're definitely seeing that in play right now as we speak. So I didn't want to go too much further into that, but Sister Davis threw that jewel out there, and I just wanted to kind of let everybody know that, what she's talking about in terms of HARP in that program, to be able to move it to the left and to the right.
Definitely dropped a lot of jewels. But, it all pretty much boils back to the same principle, which are the people that we're dealing with. And I just want to touch on one other thing, brother, because I know you don't watch a lot of media because, you try to guard against what's coming into your spirit. But what she was saying about the television shows and the movies that are coming out,
mm-hmm.
There's a principle that states that they have to give some type of warning, some type of notice before they actually implement some of their plans or some things that are going to occur. Now, some of that is just for, the people who are in the know, so they know how to prepare themselves and conduct themselves accordingly, but also for the general population, even if they're not going to understand, just to be able to say, hey, we told you it was coming, we tried to notify you, any actions that you took or didn't take to be prepared, that's on you. So again, they try to, flip the script and make the people who are unaware or can't read the sign, they try to make them, responsible because they should have been able to see it.
Do you agree? Do you think there's any level of responsibility on people who are not seeing it if they're putting it in their face? Is there any level of responsibility on those who are not able to read the signs?
Brother Tommy, you're going to put me out there like that.
I'm just asking.
We got a caller from the 702 area, Las Vegas. Caller, go ahead with your statement. 702. You got your hand up? Did you want to say anything, or you just listening to the show?
I'm just listening to the show. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem, sir. We'll mute you. If you have any questions or any statements, just go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know.
Go ahead and if you want to make a statement anytime, just raise your hand and we'll go ahead and recognize you. Brother Tommy, what was that question again?
Do the people who are not aware, consciously aware, who are not reading the signs that are put right in front of them, is any of the burden on them, is my question, or is that blaming the kettle because it's black?
Brother Tommy, if I give you a book and I tell you, brother, you need to read this book, it's got some powerful information on it, and I set it on the coffee table, and before I walk out the door, I tell you that information is going to save your life. You need to go ahead and check that out and, holler at me when you do it so we can talk about it. And then I leave on out of there. And, you have every intention on reading the book, but you never quite get around to it. And then, some type of event occurs, and it affects you and your family, in an unfavorable light. And I come to you and I'm like, hey, brother, you didn't read that book, And you're like, well, no, I didn't get around to it. Can I hold you responsible? Because the information was there. You could obtain it. It's just that even though you didn't know what was in it, it was still there.
Mm-hmm.
Can you be held responsible for that?
I think I should have to bear some of the burden. Now, don't get me wrong. I in no way, shape, or form want to create a situation where I'm saying, hey, these individuals or these people that are being victimized and exploited deserve what they're getting. I'm not going to put it out there like that, brother, because I understand there's heavier things going on in the background that we're not aware about, and so I don't want to go there. I'll never blame brothers for being victimized, but the onus is on each individual to raise themselves up, to be consciously aware of their surroundings, the era of time in which they're living, the events that are occurring and how they are connected, how these things aren't happening in a vacuum. So I will put that level of responsibility on our brothers and sisters, because each one of us has to mind our own mind for the jewels of our soul. So that's the only way that it can occur. So like I said, that's a tough situation to throw the blame on them. But one thing we have to understand, from the moment the Europeans stepped foot into our ancient land, we were at war. And we've been at war with this European ever since. And any brother or sister that doesn't recognize it from that standpoint, there's certain onuses that are on them, and if they don't want to stand up and understand that this is the situation and the war is not over, and it's only deepening in the manner in which they're taking melanated people off this earth, the way they're the sicknesses that they're bringing to the melanated people, the lives, the stolen energy that they're doing, all these things that are occurring. If there are people walking around at this point and they can't recognize and see that, then to some extent, Brother Rio, I would have to put some responsibility on them. But like I said, I'm not going to blame the victim, brother.
I think that was a very thought out and well articulated answer, and I am in agreement with you. Because I do believe that in this day and age, at this particular time, I guess you can best say it, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We are dealing with people who haven't really changed their tricks, and they haven't changed their mentality. And I'm hoping that's, one thing that we can highlight today, throughout the show, that we're dealing with the same people with the same type of mentality. So we should not be surprised that some of the things and the lengths that they would go to achieve their goals and their objectives. And at what point do we stand up and we take a little bit of the responsibility, by saying, hey, we should have been able to see this coming.
Right.
We need to be able to stand up, and we need to be able to plan, because we know something else is coming down the pipe.
Without a doubt.
Would you agree with that, brother?
100%. And let's go ahead and move into the topic of the day. What we're going to do is point out a lot of the silent weapons that are moving against us as a people, and also we want to point out some executive orders and different things that they've come together through committees to create manners and methods and techniques to continue to oppress and to continue the enslavement that they have going on this planet. We know that a lot of ethnicities and other races, well, I don't say races, other ethnicities are being affected, but in my opinion, the melanated people, the indigenous people, is the true target, and they're coming at us, and they're coming at us heavy from every different angle. And Brother Real, just go ahead and kick the show off with what you got, and we're gonna flow from there, and let's kind of connect the dots. And we got a lot of people on the board who might be able to help us connect the dots as well. But let's start pointing out and showing how these cats got silent methods and techniques that they're using to make sure slavery continues forever.
Well, first of all, brother, last week you asked me a question that I felt was very profound, which kind of led us to going into the information we're going to discuss today. And I don't know if you remember or not, but last week you said something to the effect of, does the immigrant or the European that is occupying our land right now, do they really think that these lands are theirs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let me tell you why. And let me tell you why I said that. I'm sorry, Brother Rio. Let me tell you why I said that. Because their history program that they teach people in school show them showing up on this land after somebody else was already here. You know what I'm saying? So that's what they're teaching in their history program. So I'd be real shocked and real crazy in my mind thinking when I hear white folks hollering, "This is our land, you go home." I'm thinking, can you really think that? I mean, are you just saying it, or do you really think it? And I think that's a psychosis within itself, because they know what their history books are saying, that these cats showed up and somebody else was already here. Why are they hollering, "Get out of our land"? Go ahead.
Exactly. So what I want to establish, starting off, is I would like to go over the psychology of the oppressor and see if we can have a dialogue and a discussion, either amongst ourselves, me and you, and if the family wants to chime in, they're more than welcome to. But, to me, all the things that we are dealing with comes from the psychology of the oppressor and their unwillingness to not let the oppressed out of the noose, not wanting to negotiate, not wanting to wheel and deal. Is their way or the highway? Mm-hmm. And what in the world gives them that type of psychology or mentality?
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead, brother.
I say nature. I go back to the two Cradle Theory in looking at Brother Sheikh Anta Diop. I'm looking at it from the standpoint that when you have two different types of natures, you have melanated people basking in the glow of the sun. They're children of the sun. The things that we need are in abundance. The universe is providing in abundance, and there was a collective family unit that was well respected and put before the individual. So I believe that is a nature that's been impressed upon the melanated peoples of the earth. And when you look at this European being in, I know everybody doesn't believe in the two Cradle Theory, but I'm gonna throw what I'm saying out. Being trapped in this barren land, cold, harsh. You know what I'm saying? Their woman is a liability. nature itself is imprinted on his nature, something that is so debased and so decrepit and so foul, And then if you look at the fact that, our ancient ancestors, Brother Sheikh Diop, looked at a lot of the skeletal remains, we're finding out that their pineal gland is calcified. So I'm thinking nature itself placed this imprint on these Europeans, and it is what it is.
I agree with your assessment, brother. And, I come from it at a different angle because, even though the information is valid and, I know it comes from our scholars, and our scholars were geniuses, I choose to stand on principles. And, our ancestors taught us principles about yin and yang, or, duality, which means, if you got to have a front, you're going to have a back. So if you're going to have one mentality where people are communal, they try to internally cultivate themselves to raise up to a vibration to where they're dependable, to be able to count on each other, to be able to contract. I'm saying I'm going to do this. You say you're going to do that. This is a contract between us. We're both trying to raise our vibration to live up to these contracts. So I don't have to worry about your actions. Even if you slip, I know the intent was not to harm. So I can give you grace or forgiveness, understanding that you're still trying to raise your vibrations up so that we honor the contracts together, and you extend that same grace to me. So in duality, there's got to be an opposite to that. And I think that the psychology or the mentality of these Kamahues kind of represents that. And the way I want to kind of attack that is to look at the manifestation of that psychology in their doctrines and their actions throughout history. And although I'm not trying to bang on Christianity itself, that is one of the main structures that they have oppressed upon themselves, and they use as a tool to oppress and dominate, in particularly people of melanated skin. So I found an article. It's called Challenging Christian Hegemony. And this is from ChristianHegemony.org, the Doctrine of Discovery, Manifest Destiny, and American Exceptionalism. So if you Google that, you'll be able to find the article, or you can just Google the Doctrine of Discovery, Manifest Destiny, and American Exceptionalism.
Boy, that sounds like you about to bring some information.
Oh, well, it's gonna get a little deep, bro. I think it does a good job of explaining the psychosis that we just alluded to. So it starts off with a quote from the Bible, and it says, "And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." Now, when I was reading that, my attention was drawn to the particular words that were used within the quote. Mandates they were giving by God, and God blessed them, which we know is a blood sacrifice, the word blessing, if you look up the etymology of the word blessing. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, no problem there, and replenish the earth, no problem there, and subdue it. Okay, interesting. And have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. We live on earth as part of a vast, interdependent web of life, but dominant Christianity sees the earth not as sacred, but as something to be ruled over as God commanded, i.e. discovered, which we're going to go in on that word a little later, occupied, and made productive. The article describes some of the direct results of the Christian belief in God-sanctioned dominion. So first thing I want to highlight is, occupied and made productive. Everything, according to Christian belief, was created by God. And, nature, in my opinion, is always productive because nature's going to do what it does, regardless of whether human beings are here or not.
Straight up.
So, about it being made productive and the need for it to be subdued, I don't know. That may be subjective on my part, but to me, that speaks to, an agenda or a particular kind of mindset that is being expressed. And we're seeing the seeds of that. Yeah. Or, if you will, the justification of it, because this is where we'll go into it in just a second, though. But it continues, and it says, then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age.
Brother Real, sounds like somebody gonna want to claim that they're the Viceroy of Christ. That's what that sounds like.
You're stealing my thunder, brother. You're stealing my thunder.
All right, go ahead.
But this section of Scripture is known as the Great Commission, as the last recorded personal directive of Jesus to his disciples. It holds great significance to all his followers. It is the theological foundation for Christian evangelism, crusade, and the doctrine of discovery. Christians have read this statement as God's mandate to convert the world to Christianity so that the millennium could begin. Many Native Americans, when speaking about Western civilization, Christianity, and colonization, will immediately name the doctrine of discovery as the root of the colonization, dispossession, and genocide they have experienced from the Western colonial powers throughout the Americas. The roots of the doctrine of discovery lie in two biblical quotes above, but it took a long time to coalesce into official Western Christian policy. So, what I like to do is kind of step back and kind of walk it down to the doctrine of discovery, because we're coming from Christianity, which of course is a fruit from Catholicism, and we know that, well, if you do your research, we can figure out that a lot of Catholicism or the Christian story, particularly about Jesus, came from the Council of Nicaea. So, they went to organizing and kind of figuring out how they wanted this religion and what they wanted this religion to be able to do. So as the Pope comes into power, he's claiming from these doctrines and also from, the Epistle Paul, that he is the vicar of Christ. Vicar meaning being able to rule in one's stead. So while the king is gone, I'm in control. And Jesus, being the Son of God, has dominion over all of the earth. So the vicar of Christ is again going to try to, make sure that he is taking care of all the assets that were left under him. So he is the self-proclaimed vicar of Christ, and he is going to lead and rule in his stead. So through that authority, the Pope has come up with what they call papal bulls, which are decrees that, once stated, is pretty much going to be law of the land. You feel me on that, Brother Thomas?
Yes, sir. I'm feeling you big time.
Well, he laid out a series of papal bulls. The first one being, I believe it was 1095. And a little bit of history is, this is when the Roman Catholicism or the Roman Holy Empire is taking over for the Roman Empire. So they are rising in power, and they are executing pretty much a takeover of land and the kingdoms and all the lands and dominions that Rome had secured, and as well as expand that empire. But they're also consolidating their power by...
Brother Rio, tighten your mic up. Come closer to your mic.
Is that better, brother?
Yes, sir. Okay, just stay. All right, go ahead. You kicking, brother. Keep it hot.
Okay. So they're in the process of eliminating all the people who are not with the agenda, let's say. So they're rooting out the people who aren't going along with the doctrines that they're putting down, and they're also trying to kibosh, rival religions that are also trying to vie for power. So at this particular time, they're expanding, and Portugal is starting to explore, and they're taking on slaves in Africa. And at this particular time, Africa is just, by their term, Africa is just the northern tip of Africa, where you have Morocco and Ghana and all the northern countries that was known as Africa. But, Portugal is now starting to come around the western coast, come down the western coast of Africa, and they're starting to claim those lands and take the indigenous population there on as slaves. And the Pope sanctioned these in, the first papal bull. Well, after the papal bulls come down and he continues to make decrees, Spain is coming into power, and Portuguese, all of these particular groups are starting to circumvent the world, and they're starting to explore further and further west into South America and into those islands that are being encountered over there. So in 1455, they pretty much have control of Europe and Asia, and they're making their way down the western coast of Africa and into some parts of South America. So he has papal bulls passed that are pretty much allowing these different countries to legally, under his reign, his rule, and under his divine ordinance, being the vicar of Christ, allow them to be able to do that and expand the empire, and as well as teach the Christian religion to the heathens that are being encountered. Got any questions or comments so far, brother?
No, I'm rolling with you.
Okay. Well, the bulls of donation are Alexandrian bulls, which was the Pope, the papal bulls of Pope Alexander VI. And he, like I said, he's pretty much granting overseas territories to Portugal and to Spain. So as they continue to move westward, we have the Inca-Terra papal bull. And that is pretty much recognizing Spain's claim to any discovered land not already held by a Christian prince, and also wasn't protected under Portugal's rights. But eventually Portugal is going to fall off, and the Pope is like, hey, Spain, go ahead and do what y'all do. Y'all expanding. As long as there's no Christian presence there, you can conquer those lands. You can discover those lands. Excuse me. These are the terms that they are using. You can discover those lands even if there are already people there. And as long as they're not Christian, they can be subdued, and you can claim this land for Jesus and Christianity and start to implement, the institution of Christianity and teach the pagans and the heathens, some civilized manners, and you can teach them about Jesus, and we'll try to raise them up. But really, it was just to conquer and take over the land as well as the resource.
Right. So, and basically what you're speaking to, Brother Rio, and adjust your mic a little bit while I'm sitting here talking because it still keeps fading back out. But what you're speaking to, I feel you, is a mindset, and it's a mindset that's looking, a psychopathic mindset that is looking to go out to the world to dominate and control. Even when the Europeans came into our ancient land and usurped the throne, when we first get the concept of how they tell you how Coptic Christianity was a form of a religious form in ancient Kemet, but that was a religious form that was being created by the Europeans who had usurped the throne. So you're looking at a changing of the religion, and for one reason, there's a lot of aspects of our ancient religion and mysteries that they didn't understand. So you're looking at a perversion and a misapplication of ancient knowledge, but you're also looking at a way to take that ancient knowledge and basically change it and turn it to fit their asili, to fit what it is that they want to do. And this is where you get this concept of Coptic Christianity coming down in our ancient land and then eventually spreading itself throughout the world in the manner in which you just so elegantly spoke, brother. But yeah, I feel you. What you're doing is it's setting up a mindset and it's showing how these Europeans have this particular mindset and now are using this particular state-sponsored religion to be able to move forward with that plan and have a justification for it. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So in the 13th and 14th centuries, we pretty much see them rising in power and implementing internally their own documents, how they're going to do things, how they're going to explain things. So internally, they're getting themselves together, and they're starting to expand and put the show on the road from there. So they come up with these papal bulls, and that is to, manifest the self-proclaimed power under the leadership of Christ, which can, the historical figure of Jesus, I'm of the opinion never existed, but yet and still, they use those stories and they claim power from that. And from that power, which to them is absolute, they use that power and they claim ownership of everything and everyone. Mm-hmm. So in the 16th through the 18th centuries, of course, we're seeing, colonization. 1400s, they're kicking out the Moors. They're gaining in power. They're kicking out the Moors from Spain and in Europe. And, of course, those Moors are starting to flee down into Africa and also over to, the island as well as to the Americas. So I believe these papal bulls were passed in pursuit of these Moors because they pretty much knew where they were going. They knew it was already over there because the Moors had been talking about it. Trade had already been established back and forth. So I'm not buying into the story about Christopher Columbus sailing across the sea, trying to get to India just to find another trade route to trade with India. He was being navigated by Moors, and these Moors knew exactly where they were going, and they led him exactly where he wanted to be. So, that's just a farce and a cover-up, and the psychology that these people are showing is the most powerful evidence that I can give. So from the 1600s to the 1800s, we know that they're colonizing Africa, South America, and North America as well. So in 1822, there comes about a document, the Secret Treaty of Verona. Are you familiar with that document?
Hello?
Yes, sir. Hold on for a sec, Brother Rio. We're going to have to go to a quick break, and once we come back from the break, we have Brother Bragg, who has a question and some information he's about to bring to the table, and y'all know he always brings it hot. We have area code 702. I see you. We're going to come right to you after Brother Bragg. And so, Brother Rio, let me go to a quick station identification break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Melanated Roots Radio Show on the Black Talk Radio Network.
You are tuned in to the Black Talk Radio Network. For podcasts and live program scheduling, visit us on the web at blacktalkradionetwork.com. The views and opinions expressed by callers, guests, and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of the Black Talk Radio Network and Black Talk Media Project. Black Talk Radio is new black media for the new millennium.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Melanated Roots Radio Show on the Black Talk Radio Network. Brother Rio, you got anything to say before we go to Brother Bragg and then our caller at 702?
No, brother, let him kick. Let him kick.
Brother Bragg, I unmuted you right now. What's going on, Brother Bragg?
Peace, fellas. How are you today, man? No doubt.
Yes, sir.
Hey, listen, man, y'all killing me. Y'all talking about these cannons, man, and I've been working on this for a few days, and I'm just going to run this by you. This is just for informational purposes, but this is from your friendly Roman Catholic Church. This is called Right, Suspension, and Corruption. It's the Sesquive Trust, Canon 2036. Sestu Quave Trust, also known later as a Fide Commissionary Trust, and later again as a Foreign Citrus Trust, and also known as a form of secret trust, is a fictional concept being a temporary testamentary trust, first created during the reign of Henry VII of England, through the Sesquive Act of 1540 and updated by Charles II, through the Sesquive Act of 1666, wherein an estate may be effected for the benefit of one or more persons presumed lost or abandoned at sea, and therefore presumed dead after 7 years. Additional presumption by which such a trust may be formed were added in a later statute to include bankruptcies, minors, incompetence, mortgages, and private companies. Now, these are the edits of the church. I don't know if most people know. I do a lot of studying. All laws come from this church. You know that, right? The Roman Catholic Church is the law on this planet.
Sir.
For those who don't know, in the 3 cities state being king, everything being corporation. Now that's about as far as I'm gonna go. That was just for information because y'all killing me. Y'all right on point on your topics. Y'all sitting here reading these canons. I've been studying different canons all day, man. So y'all blow me away when the stuff y'all coming up with. This is what I be on. This is the path I roll down.
You say that's what you've been
reading.
Man,
these boys on the same path, so I had to just interject because y'all right on point. I mean, y'all right in there. Y'all like a straight arrow, Jack. Y'all shaking that spear of knowledge. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Brother Bragg, I'm familiar with that Sesquive Trust. And
your microphone, Brother Rio. Your microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Come a little closer. Go ahead.
Okay. Have you heard? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. You're right on point, Brother Bragg. And, that's an issue that's going on today that, we still going to have to deal with. But we're going to have to we're going to have to unpack that particular one in another show because, that right there, that's heavy. That's real.
But that goes right in with your Treaty of Verona. Your Treaty of Verona goes right in with it. That's why I'm telling y'all boys kicking it. You just don't know. The Treaty of Verona goes right in with them cannons y'all kicking. All of that shit is relevant. Just like what else is relevant with all that stuff is the black slave code, the Christian slave code, and the Negro slave code. This is all the laws that corrupted the land. All this stuff is intertwined.
Real talk.
But a lot of people won't see the relationship, but y'all boys on point, man. Thanks.
Yes, sir. You absolutely
I'm proud to listen to y'all boys.
Appreciate it, brother.
What we're going to do is we're going to tie it in. We're going to tie in this same psychosis, and we're going to see how it filters in to exactly what you're saying, especially about the point of the kingships or the monarchies being overtaken by, these organizations we call it corporations,
Right, the rights of king, Roman equity, law of admiralty, maritime, that's all of that.
Yes, sir, because a lot of people may not be aware that, the colonies that came, they weren't really colonies, they were charters, they were first corporations.
They were 13 penal colonies is what they were.
Right.
Check this out. We started from guilds. We started from guilds, plantations, corporations. That's how they started their structure. And the structure starts from economic.
Go ahead, Bragg.
I was just going to say the law starts from Levant law, ecclesiastical law. It's all biblical law. It's all law of the church. It's all canon, which is the most canon contracts. All of this is the same stuff, man. All this contract law is from the church. It all comes from the church, man.
Right, because that's what the Creator in the Bible. I'm speaking specifically to the Scripture. That's what the Creator is making with man all throughout the Bible are contracts, but they're just using the word covenant.
Yes, sir.
So I feel you.
Contract, compact, all the same thing.
It's all the same thing, and that is
Constitution.
What, yes, sir. That is what they use to get over, and the use of corporations and the use of contracts, charters to get over that. If you look at Cecil Rhodes when he went into, or if you look at all those chartered companies they used when they first started stealing land from African people after signing treaties that they didn't understand and taking mineral rights to the land, Brother Bragg, they came in with charters.
Remember, charters, license, all of these give you right to do things that you normally wouldn't able to be doing. So things that are normally illegal, these charters, these grants, these licenses, they give you a right to do them. Remember, Isabella and Ferdinand started issuing these charters. Then you had King Charles and the Stuarts, and they started issuing charters. So you have two different sets of kings issuing charters on the same land. Mm-hmm. Neither one of them owned the land. So they basically stole the land by coming in and writing this I can't pronounce that word, ecclesiastical in the Bible, the word ecclesiastical law. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I can't pronounce that word, man. But that ecclesiastical law.
Yes, sir.
It's law from the Bible. It's law from the church. The law of the church is the law of the land. And most people don't really get this, man. When you talk about the secret treaty of Verona, that secret treaty of Verona sets everything up. It tells how the church pays states to keep people from having a republic form of government. That's what the secret treaty of Verona is about. It's some serious shit, man. Y'all be kicking it, man.
Come on, Rio. Wasn't you about to transition, Brother Rio, into the secret treaty of Verona? Give us what you got.
Well, I'm gonna go into the. I'm gonna go ahead and go into the manifest destiny, and then I'm gonna come back into the secret treaty of Verona. But was there another caller?
I'm sorry. Let me unmute. You're right, boy. If we kick it, I'm just caller area code 702. I'm sorry, sister. I did not mean to be that way. Please give us what you got.
No problem. This is a brother.
Oh, I'm sorry, brother.
Dr. Hector.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Greetings, brother. Greetings.
Yeah, greetings. This is Dr. Hector at the 702-417-23, the number.
Yes, sir.
Look, very heavy topics on that Christianity stuff, but I would like to turn on to two great elders that would explain this so-called Christianity and all these so-called Constantine, I'm just saying his name, making up these laws for us, there was no letter J ever in the hieroglyphics or our ancient alphabets. So his name wasn't Jesus. And I'm not going to get on his name because I'm going to throw out two elder books that hopefully people that will listen will purchase these books and find out the true name of this man you call Jesus and the man you call God, because in ancient time it was G-U-D pronunciation, So I just want to, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. The title of the first book is The Bible is the Black Man's Real History, and it's by Mawui, Mawui. That's the title of that elder, his name. The second one is The Genesis of the Bible by Shaka Dolo, D-O-L-O. These brothers, on what you deep brothers are discussing right now, are deep in this topic of what you're talking about, and I'm, from what I've gathered, you get more knowledge out of these two books, these two great elders, on what you're talking about.
Yes,
because there was no man ever called Jesus.
Yes,
and Constantine converted to this so-called Christianity to what you call dictatorship, the people. And I just want to just say that, please, I hope those titles and the name of these great authors was heard. And I want to thank you for your time.
Absolutely, brother. We thank you very much for calling in. We're on every Mondays from 8 to 10. So definitely listen in. It sounds like you have some very positive information and positive energy to give. And at any time you feel like you want to drop, make sure you put in that call.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, Brother Rio, go ahead and slide with what you were sliding. Go ahead and walk it out.
All right. just to recap a little bit, I believe this quote in these next statements are going to recap and kind of further discussion. Free and ample faculty to invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens, or Muslims, which is another name that they termed the Moors, and pagans whatsoever, and other enemies of Christ, whosoever place, and the kingdoms, dukedoms, principalities, dominions, possessions, and all movable and immovable goods whatsoever held and possessed by them, and to reduce their persons, let me read that again, and to reduce their persons to perpetual slavery, and to apply and appropriate to himself and his successors the kingdoms, dukedoms, counties, principalities, dominions, possessions, and goods, and to convert them to his and their use and profit. That's the Romanist Pontificate 1455. The U.S. legal doctrine is based on the doctrine of discovery, which is another name for the papal bull. Mm-hmm. For example, in 1835 Tennessee Supreme Court case, Tennessee versus Foreman, the court ruled the principle declared in the 15th century as the law of Christendom that discovery gave title to assume sovereignty over and to govern the unconverted natives of Africa, Asia, and the North and South America, has been recognized as part of the national law for nearly 4 centuries. Doctrine of discovery remains a major tenet of our legal system, referred to by Supreme Court justices, citing John Marshall's, who we know was a brother, John Marshall's Supreme Court Johnson versus McIntosh decision in 1832. Now, this was a major court case that didn't even involve Indians. They were not a party in this case, but it determined how the U.S. would treat them from then all the way up into what we're dealing with now. So it goes on to say, according to Chief Justice Marshall, the United States, upon winning its independence in 1776, became a successor nation to the right of discovery and acquired the power of dominion from Great Britain. Therefore, all Native American land claims were null and void. As recently as 2005, Supreme Court Justice Ralph Bader Ginsburg cited the doctrine of discovery and rejecting land claims by the Oneidas, one of the 6 nations of the, I can't pronounce this word, Haudenosaunee. Mm-hmm. Robert Miller, Native American professor of law, has written, the deed to almost all real estate in the United States originates from an Indian title that was acquired by the United States via discovery principle. Native people in the Americas are still fighting to resist Western colonialism and reclaim their land and their sovereignty. The doctrine of discovery still stands in their way, and that is today, whether you want to call it eminent domain or what have you.
Right, and
they are still running with this doctrine of discovery, but they may change up the name, but it all remains the same.
Yes, sir.
So they came in, they stole the land, and they made and passed laws that had nothing to do with our people because they weren't even a party to it.
Right.
So,
and Brother Real, let me kick in on that. And you are seeing examples of that. Modern day examples of that is right here in this country. We're indigenous to this land. Brother Bragg is screaming that from the highest mountain. You are seeing it in South Africa, where they put forth their apartheid regime, but they're still controlling the scenes from behind the scenes right now. Mandela pretty much signed over everything to him there. You're seeing the same situation of them claiming land rights and basically coming in as the vicar of Christ. God gave us dominion, coming in and doing whatever they choose. And if you don't have what it requires to stop them, they have no moral conscience that's going to prevent anything that they plan on doing.
Right, brother. You're right, because they ain't got no moral conscience about it, because it's going back to that psychology. From the top, the vicar of Christ, who stands right under the feet of Jesus Christ and is ruling in his stead, has ordained us to be able to go and discover these lands where people are, but since they aren't Christians, we don't give them no mind, so we're going to take the resources, them being one of the resources, and, we're going to use them for slave labor. We're going to use them whatever way we want to. There are resources.
Yes, sir.
As ordained by God. So, the doctrine of discovery gave rise to, in the states, North America, to manifest destiny. And that was, of course, they started on the eastern border. They were going to push all the way to the Pacific Ocean. So they're going to push west. Mm-hmm. So manifest destiny was the continuation of the doctrine of discovery, adapted to the needs of the 19th century U.S. colonial aspirations. The 1840s was a time of tremendous transformation in the U.S. with the opening of the Oregon Trail, the Mexican-American War, and the gold rush in California. Much of the public's attention was on westward expansion. Many white Americans were eager to take more land from Native Americans, establish new territories and states, and increase their economic and political power. Popularized in 1845 by influential journalist John L. O'Sullivan, the term manifest destiny became a national rallying cry for proponents of further westward colonization. And also, they have a newspaper article, or I don't know if it's a flyer, but it reads, "Indian land for sale. Get a home of your own, easy payment, perfect title, possession within 30 days. Fine lands in the West, irrigated or irrigable, grazing, agriculture, dry farming." And it's just they followed up with the Homestead Act in 1862. It just keeps going. It just keeps going. So they ran with that manifest destiny, running the Indians out until they was on reservations, and the takeover was on.
But hold on. Let me say something too. Yes, sir, brother. You definitely showed a clear path of these crackers basically telling you I'm gonna do whatever I want. You know what I'm saying? I got this gun. I got the superior technology that takes life on this planet, and I'm gonna throw it in your face, and I'm gonna show you I do whatever I want to do. That's basically what you're saying. But what I would like our listeners to do is that every time, Brother Rio, when you say the word Indian, I want people to imagine in their mind a dark-skinned, melanated person, a black person. So every time they're saying the word Indian or Native American, see yourself there, or your ancient ancestors, because that's the trick.
Throw that picture of Tonto in the fire.
Yeah,
that ain't who we talking about.
No, the indigenous is us.
Talking about our dark melanated ancestors. Some of them had straight hair, some of them had kinky hair, but they were dark like us.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And brother, what I wanted to kind of extend on what you were saying is when you take this mindset of control, of domination, wanting to show, what I'm saying, I control all this. God has given me dominion over this, because what the heck would you need to have dominion over birds and animals for? You know what I'm saying? They live in their life and doing their thing, and of course our lifestyle is encroaching on them. But what the heck I need to dominate a bird for, or have dominion over it? Let it be it and me be me. But let me say what I was gonna say.
Right.
Moving forward with this domination, now what I would like to do, brother, is show how, in order to implement these things, as the societies are growing and populations are growing, they have to put certain methodologies and certain techniques on the table in order to continue this control and domination. And that's where we're getting into the concept of mind control, the concept of influencing people, the concept of steering things in certain directions unbeknownst to the people who are being steered. So, like when you were around the year 1954 is when they started doing research on different, of course they was doing it way before that, but, a particular type of operations research went into play where they were doing research on social engineering, how to influence society. And I got a couple things that I want to put out there, Brother Rio, in terms of information I want to read, and that speaks to that. You got anything before I go ahead and drop?
Yeah. Let me slide back a little bit, and we're gonna come forward to that.
Okay.
Because I'm going exactly where you're talking about, and that's why I wanted to cover the Secret Treaty of Verona after I went over Manifest Destiny. But I wanted to hit Manifest Destiny because that is a direct mentality leak from the doctrine of discovery and why these people think they have the authority to be able to. Because you got to remember, 1800s. This is the same time, the Dred Scott cases were coming up, and people were trying to fight for, their rights as indigenous people, and the governments were making contracts and treaties with our people, the Indian tribes or the Native Americans, and they were just outright breaking them, But we need to understand the psychology that went behind that thinking. Why would they want to break these contracts and just, when they could have just done that from the very beginning? Mm-hmm. But, it's all games. It's all, they're trying to get leverage until they get to the proper position to strike. So at the same time that this is going on in the 1800s, over in the Americas, over here on this side of the hemisphere, back over in Europe, where they pretty much already have the Moors kicked out, and they're on to a different agenda.
Right.
So
trying to bring in a European hegemony at that point.
Say that again.
Trying to bring forth European hegemony at that point, or hegemony.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Because they've already done most of the dirty work.
Right.
They expelled the Moors. They've gone through the Inquisition. They've already pulled, a certain amount of resources. So, it affords them to be able to take it to the next level, which is to, kind of strategize about how to keep this ball rolling. Okay. So what I'm going to go over now is the Secret Treaty of Verona, which was signed and it was recorded in November 22nd, 1822. Now, this was read into the congressional record over here because there were some politicians or Congress people who wanted the general body of Congress to be aware of what was going on. Because you got to remember, you still got different factions of Europeans fighting for power as well. Who's going to be top dog? Who's going to get more table scraps from the Pope and from the Vatican? So you still got different sets of Europeans that are vying for power to implement the overall strategies and plans. Yeah,
and fighting against each other like dogs.
Right. So they read this into the record on April 25th, 1916. I wish to put in the record the Secret Treaty of Verona of November 22nd, 1822, showing what this ancient conflict is between the rule of the few and the rule of the many. So basically you got the elite versus, the people. I wish to call the attention of the Senate to this treaty because it is the threat of this treaty which was the basis of the Monroe Doctrine. It throws a powerful white light upon the conflict between monarchical government and government by the people. The Holy Alliance, under the influence of Metternich, the premier of Austria in 1822, issued this remarkable secret document. Secret Treaty of Verona. The undersigned, specially authorized to make some additions to the Treaty of the Holy Alliance, after having exchanged their respective credentials, have agreed as follows. Article 1. The high contracting powers being convinced that the system of representative government is equally as incompatible with the monarchical principle as the maximum of sovereignty of the people with the high divine right, engage mutually in the most solemn manner to use all their efforts to put an end to the system of representative government in whatever country it may exist in Europe, and to prevent its being introduced in those countries where it is not yet known. That pretty much says it all.
So the secret treaty of Verona said that they were going to put an end to governments representing the people. Is that what you just said, brother?
Pretty much a representation by the people.
Right.
So, you elected an official, and that official being true to your wants and your demands, they're looking to undermine that.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap. And you can see that in modern day. Go ahead, keep breaking, brother. You coming heavy.
Article 2, as it cannot be doubted that the liberty of the press is the most powerful means used by the pretended supporters of the rights of nations to the detriment of those princes, the high contracting parties promise reciprocally to adapt all proper measures to suppress it, not only in their own state, but also in the rest of Europe. So they're talking about taking control of the press.
Yes, they are. And you can see it.
Go ahead, brother.
No, go ahead. You kicking. You can see it.
Article 3, convinced that the principles of religion contribute most powerfully to keep nations in the state of passive obedience, which they owe to their princes. The high contracting parties declare it to be their intention to sustain in their respective states those measures which the clergy may adopt, with the aim of ameliorating their own interests. Wow. So intimately connected with the preservation of the authority of the princes, and the contracting powers join in offering their thanks to the Pope for what he has already done for them, and solicit constant cooperation in their views and submitting the nation.
Wow.
Brother.
Now you see why they put the word secret in front of it.
I ain't going to say the pastor's selling you out, but pastor's selling you out.
Yo, and now you see why they put the word secret in front of it. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, sir. But you can see, like you just said, you can see these being played out in society today. But this was back in 1822.
Yes.
But, it goes deeper. Article 4, the situation of Spain and Portugal unite unhappily all the circumstances to which this treaty has particular reference. The high contracting parties in confiding to France the care of putting an end to them, engaged to assist her in the manner which may the least compromise them with their own people and the people of France by means of a subsidy on the part of the two empires of 20 million francs every year from the date of the signature of this treaty to end the war. Now, I was unaware of what that was really saying, so I had to kind of look that up, brother.
Okay.
And at this time, in a nutshell, they used France to destabilize a lot of the countries. First of all, they destabilized France.
Right.
Because the people were becoming too powerful. They had proper representatives, and it was hard for, the elite people to get done what they need to get done. So they destabilized France, kicked in the door, kicked out the aristocrats, brought in people who, were going to be down with the program, gave them money for, tearing down the structure that was already in place, and used France to begin to colonize Africa, or further colonize Africa and other states, that weren't on board with the Christian, doctrine of discovery and that type of mentality.
Okay.
And Article 5, in order to establish in the peninsula the order of things which existed before the revolution of Cadiz, and to ensure the entire execution of the articles of the present treaty, the high contracting parties give to each other the reciprocal assurance that as long as their views are not fulfilled, rejecting all other ideas of utility or other measures to be taken, they will address themselves with the shortest possible delay to all the authorities existing in their states and to all their agents in foreign countries with the view to establish connections tending toward the accomplishment of the object proposed by this treaty.
Mm-hmm.
Article 6, this treaty shall be renewed with such changes as new circumstances may give occasion for, either at a new Congress or at the court, blah, blah, blah. Article 7, the present treaty shall be ratified and the ratifications exchanged at Paris within the space of 6 months. So the next one is the Treaty of Paris, but I don't believe these articles were particularly covered. So, that's another reason that these were called a secret article or the secret Treaty of Verona.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that signed it were Austria, France, Persia, and Russia. So, right here you see the blueprint of them trying to, start to infiltrate the state and the government in order to control the people for, purposes of control.
Yes, sir.
I guess, for lack of a better term. What do you think about that, Brother Tom?
Heavy. I mean, I think that's that's some heavy information, and like I said, it shows the intent of total control for infinity. That they want to perpetuate slavery until the end, and I think that's what a lot of people have to wrap their minds around, so that we can now start putting energy towards what it's going to take to break that yoke, because that's what needs to occur. It's a yoke that we can break, because humanity has the power to transform at any time, but it's just when humanity decides to do it, whether it's going to have to be something external in terms of energy forces coming into the planet, or is it something that's going to be organic. So that's what I'm waiting for. But we can transitioning over to, brother, I thought it was heavy. It transitioned right over into some other silent weapons that they're using to now implement those treaties and those acts that were signed into law that you spoke about. You got anything before I go on it?
Well, I just want to add, because I know we're running short on time. We can link these things all the way through history, but this is the 1800s. This was 1822. Remember, in 1884 was the Berlin Conference. That's when they pretty much carved up Africa, and they divided it amongst themselves. And then in 1903, people need to look up the Protocols of Zion. 1903, Protocols of Zion. Mm-hmm. And this is just another doctrine, just like the Secret Treaty of Verona, where they're outlining, their methodology of how they're going to implement their plan.
Yes, sir.
And what they're going to do and how they're going to be accountable to each other. And from the Protocols of Zion came in 1913, the Wellington House, which also became known as the Tavistock Institute. So the people can look that up and Google that. Tavistock Institute came about in 1921. But in 1913, this Wellington House is a cause of a whole lot of our appeal because, they were created in London, but they implemented plans in the Americas, such as the Federal Reserve Act. Mm-hmm. So we see a lot of these things starting to manifest in 1913.
Don't forget the committee.
Federal Reserve Act. Go ahead.
Don't forget the Committee on Public Information as well around that time.
Right. I'm gonna hit that.
Okay.
After in 1913, after they secured the Federal Reserve Act, that's when they pretty much changed their name to Tavistock, because they had control of the economy, and they began to influence the infrastructure, the government of the United States as well as other countries. So they created plans through, like Tommy just mentioned, the committee. What was the name of that committee again, brother?
Committee on Public Information.
Committee on Public Information. They were in charge of pretty much propaganda from the papers and also the film. And they existed around 1916 to 1919. And they are directly responsible for getting America involved in the First World War. But this Wellington House, they were responsible for orchestrating all of World War I as well as World War II through propaganda and going around to various other countries and taking over their economy. Because you got to remember, this is London, so this is where, the Rothschild is set up. And, they were taking over the banking industry in London as well as in other countries. So the founders of this Wellington House were Sir Edward Grey, Lord Northcliffe, Lord Rothmere, Arnold Toynbee, and the American Walter Lippmann, who was a famous, he praised as a journalist, and he structured a whole lot of propaganda within the newspaper. And Edward Bernays, who is also known as the father of spin. So his propaganda campaigns are legendary, from getting females to smoke Virginia Slims in the 1920s and so on. But they were funded by the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers as well. Anything you want to add to that, brother?
No, you bringing them up. It's tying right to where I'm about to when you're dead. It's tying right into what I'm about to bring.
I'm about to turn it over to you. The Cradle Committee, which you just mentioned, which was came into existence in 1916 and 1919, was created by executive order through Woodrow Wilson, and you can look it up, Executive Order 2594. So they'll give you some more information on that. So we're moving into the 1900s, and in the middle of the 1900s, around 1954, that's where you have the creation of the Bilderberg Group, which is, again, a group of elites, and they're getting together to make plans of how, they're going to continue the ball rolling. But it's the same psychosis that they have. They're trying to take over the world, and they feel they have the right to, because they're mandated from the Vicar of Christ, which is the Pope. So Bilderberg Group in 1954, which comes down to what Sister Davis was talking about, the King Alfred Plan and the Rex Plan, which is around 1967. And at that same time, you also come out with Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, which I think was in the 1950s or the 1960s. So I know you got some information on that, brother. So go ahead and kick that. And let me add that, when these information or these plans get out, they always try to play it off, through propaganda that, these aren't verified plans, or, they're not real. So you can go back to the Willie Lynch letters, it's about the validity of it, and there was no guy named Willie Lynch. Who cares about that? What stated in the letter was being practiced and put into effect. And you can see that disseminating itself throughout society. So, at some point you have to be, I don't care who actually wrote it. There's some truth in the letter, and, somebody's acting upon these plans. So we need to get together and kind of counteract that. But go ahead and kick that information about that Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, brother. I think that's going to blow some people's minds.
Yes, sir, brother. And not only that, brother, you did an excellent job of bringing out the basically step-by-step plan that these suckers is walking, towards their ultimate game. And now I'm just going to read a little information about silent wars, silent weapons, and how they're being applied to you, this very concept of social engineering. Okay. It is patently impossible to discuss social engineering or the automation of a society, i.e., the engineering of social automation systems, silent weapons, on a national or worldwide scale without implying extensive objectives of social control and destruction of human life, i.e. slavery and genocide. So they're telling you right there that social engineering, slavery and genocide definitely will be the result of basically trying to socially control human beings. So, silent weapon technology has evolved from operations research, a strategic and tactical methodology developed under the military management in England during World War II. The original purpose of operations research was to study the strategic and tactical problems of air and land defense with the objective of effective use of limited military resources against foreign enemies. So, social engineering, which is the analysis and the automation of a society, requires the correlation of great amounts of constantly changing economic data. So a high-speed computerized data processing system was necessary, which could race ahead of the society and predict when society would arrive for capitulation. So
they had the ability to calculate, plan and calculate when they wanted that to be able to, or a general sense of when they wanted that to be able to take place
in advance. And
wow.
So, because the relay computers were too slow, Brother Rio. So, but the electronic computer, which was invented in 1946 by Eckert and J. Prosper Eckert and John Monchi, came up with the electronic computer. So the next breakthrough was the development of the simplex method of linear programming, Brother Rio. That was done in 1947 by the mathematician George Danzig. So, and then in 1948, the transistor, which was invented by J. Bearden, promised great expansion of the computer field by reducing space and power requirements. With these three inventions under their direction, those in position of power strongly suspected that it was possible for them to control the whole world with the push of a button. Now, immediately after those three things came into play, Brother Rio, the Rockefeller Foundation got on the ground floor by making a 4-year grant to Harvard College and the funding of the Harvard Economic Research Project for the study of the structure of the American economy. So all of these things, Brother Rio, what you talk about, Manifest Destiny, the Secret Treaty of Verona, one way these things are being implemented is by understanding economies and being able to control economies. You feeling me?
Brother Thomas.
Yeah.
It's also, I don't think it's no coincidence, but Walter Lippmann, guess what college he went to?
Harvard.
Edward Bernays, guess what college he went to?
Come on with it.
Harvard. So we're seeing that in these higher institutions, you know, they're taking and they're molding these people to a certain philosophy. So, you know, at Harvard, you got these gentlemen, and then, you know, the Bushes, you got, you know, Skull and Bones, but you have these secret societies or these organizations which are all following the path with this particular doctrine that all got started from the Pope being the vicar of Christ and grasping on to, you know, a couple passages out of the Bible saying that, you know, you should have dominion over everything on the earth.
Right.
And we're still seeing seeds and manifestations of that psychology or psychosis today.
Yes, sir. So, okay, now let me go ahead. Was you done? My bad. I'm sorry. Was you done?
No, yeah, bro. You kicking. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. With the creation of the maser in 1954, the promise of unlocking unlimited sources of fusion atomic energy from the heavy hydrogen in seawater and the consequent availability of unlimited social power was a possibility only decades away. Planning in the head, Brother Rio. So in 1954, it was well recognized by those in positions of authority. Now listen to this, Brother Rio. This is important. In 1954, they recognized that it was only a matter of time, only a few decades before the general public would be able to grasp and upset the cradle of power. Not too long ago. Now look at how technology has came in and the control it has implemented. Not too long ago, they were thinking the consciousness was raising. Sooner or later, they're about to break the grip of power. Okay, check this out. So the energy of the issue of primary concern was that of dominance revolved around the subject of energy sciences. Energy is recognized as the key to all activity on Earth. Natural science is the study of the sources and control of natural energy, and social science, theoretically expressed as economics, is the study of the sources and control of social energy. Both are bookkeeping bookkeeping systems, mathematics. Therefore, mathematics is the primary energy science. So they recognize that energy, Barrio, is the key to all activity on Earth. So, you know, go ahead, Brother Rio, go ahead.
Oh, I was just interested. I wonder where they learned that from.
You already know. Okay.
Go ahead, brother.
Okay. Consequently, in the interests of future world order, peace, and tranquility, it was decided to privately wage a quiet war against the American public with an ultimate objective of permanently shifting the natural and social energy, which is wealth, of the undisciplined and irresponsible many into the hands of the self-disciplined, responsible, and worthy few.
Stop right there, because there's so much. Because you see how they training people to be. Yeah. You know, these schools, these institutions, you know, they're educating people, but they're not really giving them knowledge. They're giving them enough information to be employable, but not to be able to think for themselves.
Yes, sir.
You know, to be able to recognize, you know, that something is wrong, but not have a correlation of cause and effect.
Yes, sir.
To really be able to deal with the problem. So they always run into somebody else, the politicians, who aren't looking out for their own interests, but they have the people fooled into thinking, yeah, I have a voice. I have freedom.
Yeah.
This man is going to vote for me the way I want him to. And that ain't the case.
No. Let me finish it here. Let me keep rules. And I want to make sure I get this information in. In order to implement this objective, it was necessary to create, secure, and apply new weapons, which, as it turned out, were a class of weapons so subtle and sophisticated in their principle of operation and public appearance as to earn themselves the name silent weapons. In conclusion, the objective of economic research, as conducted by the magnates of capital, which is banking, and the industries of commodities, which are goods and services, is the establishment of an economy which is totally predictable and manipulatable. Ooh.
That's it.
Yeah. In order to achieve a total predictable economy, the low-class elements of society must be brought under total control. They must be housebroken, trained, and assigned a yoke in long-term social studies from an early age, before they have an opportunity to question the propriety of the matter. In order to achieve such conformity, the lower class family unit must be disintegrated by a process of increasing preoccupation of the parents and the establishment of government-operated daycare centers for the occupationally orphaned children. Woo! The quality of education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort, so that the moat of ignorance isolating the inferior class from the superior class is and remains incomprehensible to the inferior class. With such an initial handicap, even bright lower class individuals have little, if any, hope of extricating themselves from their assigned lot in life. This form of slavery is essential to maintain some measure of social order, peace, and tranquility for the ruling upper class.
Now, see, Brother Tommy, that goes into exactly what you always talk about, is those invisible contracts that people aren't aware of, but they affect all aspects of our lives.
Yes, sir.
And it also goes back to the very question you asked again today. You know, can you really blame the people who don't know? Well, this is the information age, and you know, it's also, it's the age of Aquarius, where information is supposed to be coming out.
Yes, sir.
So the information, the book with it, the information is on the table. So how long are we going to be able to scream victim if the information is in front of us, but we're not looking, we're not studying it, and we aren't planning and preparing for it? We can see they are planning.
Yes, sir.
They are planning and they have contingency plans. And if we don't do the same, we ain't got a chance.
We don't have a chance. And let me bring this home, Brother Rio, because we short on time, and I want to bring this home real fast. Now I want to describe to the people what a silent weapon is. Give them a descriptive concept of it. Everything that is expected from an ordinary weapon is expected from a silent weapon by its creators, but only in its own manner of functioning. It shoots situations instead of bullets. It is propelled by data processing instead of chemical reaction, which is explosives. Originating from bits of data instead of grains of gunpowder. It's coming from a computer instead of a gun. Operated by a computer programmer instead of a marksman. Under the orders of a banking magnate instead of a military general. It makes no obvious explosive noise, causes no obvious physical or mental injuries, and does not obviously interfere with anyone's daily social life. Yet it makes an unmistakable noise, causes unmistakable...
You still there?
Yeah, hello? Causes unmistakable... Yes, I'm here, brother.
Can't hear you, bro.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Hear you now. Yes,
okay,
sir.
okay, where was I at? I'm sorry, brother. Where was I at? Okay, hold on. Let me go. Okay, when I said it's not controlled under the controls of a order of a banking magnate instead of a military general. It makes no obvious explosive noises, causes no physical or mental injuries, and it does not obviously interfere with anyone's daily social life. Yet it makes an unmistakable noise, causes unmistakable physical and mental damage, and unmistakably interferes with the daily social life, i.e., unmistakable to a trained observer, one who knows what to look for. The public cannot comprehend this weapon and therefore cannot believe that they are being attacked and subdued by a weapon. The public might instinctively feel that something is wrong, but that is because of the technical nature of the silent weapon. They cannot express their feelings in a rational way or handle the problem with intelligence. Therefore, they do not know how to cry for help and do not know how to associate with others to defend themselves against it. When a silent weapon is applied gradually, the public adjusts, adapt to its presence, and learns to tolerate its encroachment on their lives until the pressure, psychological via economics, becomes too great and they crack up. Therefore, the silent weapon is a typical type of biological warfare. It attacks the vitality, options, and mobility of the individuals of a society by knowing, understanding, manipulating, and attacking their sources of natural and social energy and their physical, mental, emotional strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, that's as deep as I'm going to go, brother. We're going to get ready to get out of here, brother. Rio, you got any final thoughts? And I'm going to bring my final thoughts and we're going to check on out. Go ahead, bro.
Wow, that was powerful, bro. I mean, because you can see that already being implemented now. So I just want the people to be aware of, they're constantly planning. So something else you may want to check out is called Agenda 21. Agenda 21. You can Google that and begin to get some information on that because just like the monarchs were circumvented and the corporations took over, well, these corporations are starting to die out, especially America with the death of the dollar. And, we're pretty soon going to be handed over to their furtherance of their goal, which is a one world government. And that's going to be the UN. So they're going to start shifting things to the end. We're starting to talk about that with UN troops coming onto American soil and, starting training exercises because they're going to be the police when things start to break down. But check out Agenda 21 because that's going to highlight some things that are coming down the pipe, and then maybe we can have a discussion and talk about it on air. As always, we will be here on Monday from 8 to 10. We thank everybody who participated in the show and gave their comments. Sister Davis, she brought some jewels. Brother Bragg, you always dropping knowledge and of course my co-host Brother Tommy, bringing that fire, brother. Keep it up. What are your closing thoughts, man?
Well, first of all, I'd like to send our thoughts and our our prayers and some love out to the people in Houston. Brothers and sisters who are out there trying to react to a tragic situation, a tragic incident in terms of weather related, and a lot of people are being put in some really bad situations. I know there babies and children are suffering right now, and mothers with their children and brothers and sisters, just trying to make it and going through a really harsh event like that. I just want to send some love out to them, and hopefully we as a community can figure out our own little ways to help once we see the help or the need that will present itself, and that maybe we can come together and figure out a way to reach out to our brothers and sisters down there and give a helping hand. So I just want to put energy out to them in a positive way and let them know that we're with them. And, we just got to be mindful. We are at a time in history, Brother Rio, to where we just really don't have time for playing. There are so many things that are going on, that could literally wipe millions of us off the planet at any time, and we need to be thinking about the progeny of our seed and us moving forward as a people. And it's just time for us to come together, man. It's time for us to recognize that regardless of what we believe in, how we see ourselves in the mirror, if what God we pray to, we're going to have to get over all those things and realize, although it's going to be hard to get over if you pray to certain God, and realize that we just got to come together as a people and move forward. And it's just time, man. I just feel like it's time. It's time to wake up, brother. And that's basically where I'm at.
Hey, brother, I have the same sentiments, man. I never want to blame the victim as well, but at some point, you have to stand up and do what you need to do and not be a victim anymore. So if we can at least look at the information that's out there, figure out the patterns, and, come together and start planning, that's better than just sitting back and allowing the same psychosis to victimize us repeatedly. So, the book's on the coffee table, and, I think that more and more people are becoming aware that the book is there. So the more of us that pick up the mantle, start to study, and can think outside the box, come together and start to plan or counter plan, or just unplug from the system itself, which could do a whole lot of damage.
Yeah.
I think we can make some progress. So by no means do I want to blame the victim, but I think we need to stop playing the victim, do what we need to do, which is continue to raise our vibration as always, so we can be in good standing and moral and know how to treat each other. But we can also, deal with what we got to do with these situations of these other people who view us as property. And as you eloquently put it, they ain't letting up on the noose.
At all.
They're not doing it.
And let me tell you something else I was thinking too, Brother Rio. I think what we need to also start talking about as a community, as melanated people, is start finding ways to come together, just like what Brother Scotty and Brother Max and them did, and the Freedom Fighters getting together up in Washington, D.C. for that rally. We need to start doing those type of things, but behind closed doors, where Europeans, other ethnicities, or those can't see, can't hear, that what we're talking about, what we're discussing, and what our plan of attack is, because, we're not getting together to have a plan of attack against anyone else. We need to get together to have a plan of attack in terms of how are we going to move forward as one, with no negative intentions towards another. But, get behind closed doors, start coming together, and talking. We got brothers, you see Brother Bragg coming heavy, reading all the time. We got brothers just like him across the country that's reading, trying to take care of their families and trying to make a way for themselves, that are waking up and understanding who we are and what we are, and this is our land, and look at the condition of our people throughout the diaspora. We got to start coming together, and if we need to start having events where we are talking behind closed doors. And that's pretty much the last thing that I have to say, brother, and we can go ahead and bring this to the close. But we need to come together, but not in public.
Hey, brothers, before you go off air, this is Scotty. Greetings to both of you. Been a great program. I've been tuned in I've been tuned in to Black Talk Radio all day. So, Tando brought it strong, and now y'all brothers. But I just wanted to say, what you described, those behind the scenes strategy meetings and things of that, those did take place in Washington, D.C., though. March and the rally was just for public consumption, and you could also use that as recruitment tool. But just spreading that awareness like what we try to do through the Black Talk Radio Network, the truth of the matter of things. And the truth of the matter is that slavery was never abolished. And certainly everything that y'all just talked about on that point. But you are exactly right. That's something that Black Talk Media Project is going to look to do. That's some of the things that's been talked about. But doing the public thing was for public education purposes. But then, politicking and strategizing, that's not for public, you know what I'm saying, for the enemies to know.
Well said, Brother Scotty. Brother, area code 702, got something to say. Come on, bring it, brother.
Yes, I want to say thank you very much for this Black Talk Radio. We need more communication like this behind, closed doors, as you stated. And like you always stated, and as you were stating tonight, the elite is Illuminati. Your Rothschild, there's just one person in there. Your Queen Elizabeth, she's part of it. We got to wake up, like you're stating. And once again, I want to thank you very much. This is my first time listening to the Black Talk Radio Show. I just happened to come across it mistakenly because I do a lot of reading, and that's how I came across it. And I just want to thank you very much for knowing that there is knowledge on the radio. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much for calling in. And we got to give love and respect for Brother Scotty, the founder of Black Talk Radio Network, put in a lot of late nights, studying in the dark when everybody else was sleeping, brought forth a medium that we need to support. And we definitely appreciate Scotty for definitely having the vision and putting that vision forward. So any other final thoughts, Rio, before we slide on out?
Yes, sir. On that note, we heard in the secret meetings that one of their philosophies and one of their plans is to be able to control the media and the paper so that they can spew their own propaganda. And Black Talk Radio goes against that grain. So especially as the economy becomes more restricted and they seek to create a tighter hold on the mentality of the people, they're going to try to squeeze all these free thinkers out of existence. So, when the time comes, it's going to be fundamental that, we all get together and, we seed as many free thinking endeavors as we can, Black Talk Radio being, amongst the group. But, we got to start taking care of our own. We got to start investing in each other. And, I'll praise the Brother Scotty because he has, brought forth this platform, and we should take full advantage of it, but make sure that it has what it needs to not only be able to continue what it does, but also be able to thrive and expand so that we can reach more people and continue to plan behind closed doors and follow our own agendas and do what we need to do. Hope everybody, stays safe and has a good week. And again, we'll be back next Monday from 8 to 10. So join us, and we're glad that you guys are enjoying the program.
Yes, sir.
Thoughts, Brother Thomas?
No, much love, and we out of here.
Peace.
Peace.
You are tuned in to the Black Talk Radio Network. For podcasts and live program scheduling, Visit us on the web at blacktalknetwork.com.